Cuerpo diplomático, por favor. ¿Está lista la traducción? Buenas tardes, bienvenidos todos al Consejo Argentino para Relaciones Internacionales en esta sesión académica especial en la que damos la bienvenida a Borut Pahor, Presidente de la República de Eslovenia. Señor Presidente, es un honor tenerlo aquí. También a Alejandra Stun, embajadora de la República de Eslovenia en la República Argentina, a todo el cuerpo diplomático extranjero acreditado presente en la Casa, y a Mila Roldán Vázquez, directora de Política de la Cancillería Argentina. El señor Presidente Pahor se referirá a Unión Europea y Brexit. De todas maneras, en un breve momento, me gustaría decirles que el Presidente de la República de Eslovenia es licenciado en Ciencia Política por la Universidad de Liubliana. En 1990 fue electo delegado de la Asamblea de la República de Eslovenia. A lo largo de su carrera política se desempeñó, entre otros cargos, como diputado de la Asamblea Nacional, miembro del Parlamento Europeo y primer ministro de su país. En diciembre de 2012 fue electo presidente de la República de Eslovenia. En términos de la relación bilateral, al poco tiempo, en junio de 1991, que se independizó Eslovenia, al otro año, 1992, en marzo, tuvo el reconocimiento oficial de Argentina, así que fuimos uno de los países primeros que tomamos la iniciativa en términos de reconocimiento de la República de Eslovenia. Creo que esto marca el mutuo interés de los dos países y por eso, muy especialmente, festejamos hoy la presencia del primer presidente de Eslovenia que visita la República Argentina. Por ese motivo, el Consejo Argentino para Relaciones Internacionales se siente muy honrado de designarlo miembro correspondiente de esta Casa por decisión del Comité Ejecutivo. El presidente. Yes, if you want. What you want.
Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me start by thanking the Council to invite me to address you. Since we don't have a lot of time, I decided to avoid a long introductory speech. I will just say a couple of lines, and later on I will be available to your questions and comments. Let me also say that all the statements do not reflect the official position of my country. In case somebody would like to clarify, I will be more than willing to do so. Number one, I am very pro-European. Number two, I am among those, there is a very small minority, that we advocate a idea of the United States of Europe. Number three, I think that we are at the crossroad. There are two basic strategic ways to go. I mean, referring to European Union. One, the way back to national politics. And at the end of the day, the end of a great idea that preserved peace for 7 decades and brought a peace and stability and welfare to European Union. The second path, very complicated one, very with a lot of problems and uncertainty, is the way to deepen the European Union, to go with institutional reform, to go beyond the Lisbon Treaty, and to think about the new Convention on the Future of Europe with a better result than it used to be a draft constitution that, then failed at 2 referendums back in France and in the Netherlands in 2004. And finally, since you, Mr. Chairman, referred to Brexit, Brexit has not been neither the cause, neither the result of the institutional crisis of European Union. I'm very sorry that our friends and colleagues from Britain have decided so. We have to respect their decision. But it has been a very sad signal, which has said a lot about the present condition of the European Union. And now I think would be good to fairly negotiate with London, paying attention to this. If Britain would negotiate in the next couple of years after triggering Article 50, a good agreement, then I think a good agreement in the eyes of those who advocate the exit, then I think some countries would follow, because it would be fine to give certain privileges and not to take their responsibilities. On the other side, compromise would be bad for life, for Brussels institutions, Commission, Council, and the House in Strasbourg and Brussels, to think about the pragmatical and long-term vision. I've already said what my long-term vision is. Pragmatical vision would be a couple of reforms that would provide Commission more efficient and dealing with the problems of 500 million people, and that would gain some momentum, which would lead to a less lack of confidence to the institutions and offer them some sort of leadership to go on with, as I said, the idea of more Europe, not less Europe. Saying so, Mr. Chairman, I would conclude my introductory speech. I know it was very a brief one, but I would rather answer the questions and listen to your comments on the issue. Okay? Thank you.
Fine, sir. El señor presidente ha habilitado cuestiones al piso, así que yo les pediría por favor que levanten la mano a aquellos que quieran hablar, se presenten y esperen el micrófono porque hay traducción simultánea. Embajador. El señor embajador Viritos.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your words. We don't normally have so frank attitudes from presidents from other countries who are visiting Argentina. But this is the right forum, I believe, to approach certain issues that worry not only Europe, but the rest of the world. The issue of migrants, of those people coming from, mainly from Syria, is something that even the Argentine president has been moved to express the acceptance of a number of citizens coming from this part of the world to Argentina. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that your country, with other countries of the area, and I would include probably Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary, are in the same wavelength in relation to this issue. This is one of the major problems Europe is facing, and there are people like the future presidents of the United States who are raising the issue strongly. Can I have a word from you regarding the position of Slovenia in this issue, please?
No, sir, you're not right. We're not in the same group. My government is strongly supporting the quota system. So, referring to the Visegrad countries, wouldn't be the right way to describe our behavior. Let us remind ourselves about a huge mistake that the Council, I used to be the member of the European Council as the Prime Minister for 3 years during the financial crisis, has made a huge mistake at the end of June 2015. When debating migration crisis, the Council, not for the very first time, but it has happened rarely in the past, went apart without any conclusion. And I said right away that this is a very, very bad signal. Since I am, as I said, very pro-European, and the way to go there is to find a compromise solution on common policy. Concluding the meeting without common, policy on migration issue would lead us to moral and political catastrophe. We succeeded then to have a frank debate back in my country, and the government has changed the position. At the next meeting, Slovenia has advocated a fair share of burden. Now, let us be frank. In case European Union, and I said it also, when meeting my colleague and friend, the Hungarian president, and all my colleagues and friends, in case on this very issue, European Union will not be able to find out a compromise solution, that would lead us to a huge fail, and I think would give a certain momentum to those who advocate going back to national politics, because the migration issue will not be any more the humanitarian issue, but security issue.
Yeah.
And changing the nature of the problem would mean that, you know, basically every country has to then think about their own security. That is why I strongly support the initiative by President Hollande and Chancellor Merkel on the security of Europe. I think it's a good decision because it leads us to common decisions on security on one side, on humanitarian issue on the other side, and would split this problem in two parts, which is good, because, you know, if not doing that would allow those who would like to mix those two problems a huge maneuver for, you know, in a way forming a public opinion in a wrong way. So let me start by saying, let me finish by saying that Slovenia will definitely advocate a common migration policy. Yes, it's true. We strongly advocated to close the Western Balkans wave, but not because we would like just to close the door. I think it is our obligation under international law to, you know, to open the door for asylum seekers. It's not the choice of the country, it is obligation under international law. But on the other side, it is true that among millions are also economic migrants, and every country, every union has a certain maneuvering space for definition what is good and what it is not, what is acceptable and what is too much. And I think to focus on you know, the borders of European Union and then to common policy would be the fine way. Let me say one thing. It's not fair that when, after closing the so-called Western Balkans way, now we are just quiet and observing the Italian problem. It's not the Italian problem. You know that, you know, ships are crossing the Mediterranean Sea, and now hundreds and thousands of miserable people are coming to Italy, and we are just, you know, waiting for a solution and doing nothing. I think it's not good. We have to share the burden. Slovenia is prepared to do so, and we will do whatever it takes to find a common solution. If not, this will be another bad signal for the future of Europe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Embajador Alberto Daverede, director del Comité Europa del Consejo.
¿Español o inglés?
Te lo traducen, sí, te lo decís en español y como quieras.
De acuerdo, entonces voy a hablar español. Estamos muy honrados por su presencia acá, señor Presidente. Para nosotros es una ocasión extraordinaria de tener acá un jefe de Estado y poder intercambiar ideas con usted. Usted puede estar en un grupo minoritario con respecto a los Estados Unidos de Europa, pero está en buena compañía en todo caso, porque creo que el primero en usar ese término en Europa fue Winston Churchill en 1947 en un discurso famoso en Frankfurt, inmediatamente o poco tiempo después de la guerra, y habló que esa era la verdadera solución para Europa y para superar los litigios y todas las guerras y todo lo que se había producido en esa trágica guerra civil como fue la Segunda Guerra Mundial para Europa. Yo me voy a permitir hacer dos preguntas, una referida al Brexit y el otra referida a su propio país. En cuanto al Brexit, no creo, usted ha dicho que no es resultado el Brexit de una crisis en Europa. pero es evidente que hay ciertas debilidades aparentes en el proyecto de la Unión Europea que de alguna manera han impactado en Europa, al menos en algunas partes de la población. El hecho de aparentemente una distribución de la riqueza, de demasiado injerencia en asuntos internos del Estado que van más allá de la acquis communautaire, el hecho de tener una moneda que no le afecta al Reino Unido, pero sí afecta a muchos, como es una moneda que no está respaldada por los organismos que normalmente regulan la emisión monetaria, como en otros países, como es el euro. Y evidentemente hay muchos movimientos dentro de otros países europeos. Pensamos en Francia, en Holanda, mismo España, Italia, donde hay movimientos de extrema derecha que se levantan contra la permanencia en la Unión Europea. ¿No cree usted que es una oportunidad el Brexit para hacer un inside examination y ver qué es lo que está, si es que hay debilidades y cosas para corregir? Creo que en la reunión de Bratislava de los 27 esa fue un poco la tendencia, pero quisiera saber si usted la consigue. Y en cuanto a su propio país, señor presidente, sabemos que es uno de los países que está funcionando mejor en Europa. Todos los signos económicos y sociales son muy positivos. Y quisiéramos saber cuál es el secreto de su gobierno en el país para haber sorteado inmensas dificultades. Pocos años tenía un régimen de economía centralizada, pasado a un régimen de economía de mercado y con gran éxito, lo cual no ha sido logrado, por cierto, por otros países del este de Europa. Gracias.
Gracias, embajador.
Well, the secret would cost you $100. So.
Not much.
So, as far as Brexit is concerned, number one, if I did say that Brexit is not the result of, that would not be so. I mean, in a way, absolutely, it has been a result of the crisis of Brussels institutions and the efficiency of EU, all that stuff is okay. But I think that more than that, and I don't want to in any way interfere in their domestic politics, as in other countries, also in mine. The negative referendum has been more a vote against the establishment than about the future of Britain or the European Union. And I think it's time now, as I said to President here in Buenos Aires and to other colleagues, we have two choices. One, just to wait and see, but in this case, with the lack of confidence to the political institutions, people will go their way and they will try to find out solutions that maybe at the end of the day wouldn't be so fascinated as they would like to see it at the beginning of the process. Option number two is that we would make some reforms, tough one, but that we would bring the responsibility of our offices to do so. So I'm talking about the leadership. As I said, or better to add, in a way I think now a group of people, not just bureaucrats, also politicians at the end of the day, would have to deal with Brexit and would be fair to finish the job as soon as possible, in case our colleagues in London would not change their minds. That would be excellent, but this is, as I said, their job, not mine. Number two, I think more or less we have to focus on our problems as 27. And I think we have a lot of domestic homework to do, and it's time to get involved in it. It's up to the Commission, to the Council, and to national politics to bring some, as I said, pragmatic and more long-term decision on the future of Europe. Number two, Slovenia. Well, this is not very popular in my country. I has not been a very popular politician as a former prime minister during the financial crisis. Everybody knows that my agenda of reforms at the end of the day has failed with 3 fiscal issues at the referendum. Among them the pensions reform that has been then later on accepted without a referendum. Let me tell you what it is not very popular in my country and other countries in Europe, but it is official. We are criticizing so-called fiscal discipline or a German formula very strongly. Well, I am among those who are advocating.
Thank you, Mr. President. Embajador de la Unión Europea del Gobierno argentino, por favor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. First of all, I would like, Mr. President, to welcome you. And I would like to say to you that I had the privilege to serve as member of the European Parliament at the same time than the President. And I am really very proud to have the privilege to listen here so strong pro-European voice. Mr. President, will be very welcome. You know that some former colleagues were visiting Argentina. We have Elmar Brok, the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee.
Yeah.
Our friend, the President of the European Parliament, Martin Schulz, and next week, the President of the Trade Committee and the President of Mercosur are really visiting the country. Mr. President, tomorrow there will be an extraordinary meeting of the European Council, and they are going to take into consideration the situation of the trade policy, because the agreement with Canada, we know that your ambassador is really working very hard in favor of this association agreement with Mercosur, but I would like to know, how do you see the general picture in the horizon of the American coming elections, and especially this association agreement between the European Union and Mercosur? Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, the problem is
No, easy.
the problem is that I'm a strong believer in free trade, so
Yeah,
that is why I am advocating those agreements. Not that I would say that as it is at the moment as a draft is perfect, but basically, I don't see a good future for business without these agreements. They are not complete, they are not perfect, but in case we would now reject the agreement with Canada, would be just a signal that the agreement with states would be the next one to fail. And then we are posing the question where all this would lead us. To isolate us? Then what? And I think that would be just another, good reason that basically nationalistic politicians would say that basically at the end of the day it's better to consider the national interests of member countries, not to consider the common interest of European Union. And that I think would lead us to a very tough future. So it is now up to leadership in Brussels, but also to leadership of every European country to advocate some political statements. And one of them, I think it is free trade. It is not without risks. It is not without some controversial consequences and all that stuff. But let us pose a question. What in the case that none of them would have our support? So we are going really through a very, very difficult time. But you know, when going through a difficult time, you just have to have even more clear positions and decisions. More the circumstances are complicated, more clear you have to be to lead the people. You can, at the end of the day, lost their confidence, but until then, your moral obligation is to stand with your positions.
Gracias, Presidente. Señor Embajador Hugo Marco. Y luego la señora Embajadora de Serbia.
Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. Ante todo quiero señalar la alegría que tenemos los argentinos de contar con una numerosa y muy trabajadora comunidad eslovena que desde hace años he tenido oportunidad de estudiar, de trabajar con miembros de esa comunidad y han sido siempre personas que han trabajado por su patria y por la nuestra que ellos adoptaron. Yendo a otro tema, usted señaló la vocación europea que a usted lo anima, de ser pro-europeo, señaló usted. En este momento Europa está afrontando un problema que es el de Oriente Medio, donde uno de los conflictos más serios se está planteando en la actualidad. Hay posiciones adoptadas tanto por Francia como por Gran Bretaña de imponer algunas sanciones extraordinarias a Siria y a Rusia a raíz de su posición en esa región. Quisiera saber si su país las comparte y cuál cree usted que sería la vía que necesariamente quizás tendría que ser la negociación, pero quiénes tendrían que formar parte de esa negociación. Gracias.
Gracias, embajador.
Two comments. Number one on Slovenia's over here. This is the very first official visit of the President of the Republic of Slovenia to Argentina. Definitely, issue number one is to deepen the bilateral relations between Buenos Aires and Liubliana. But I am investing the same amount of expectations also to meet with different representatives of different groups of our Slovene community. Just to inform you, next week Slovenia will have a very, very important moment in the history. We decided with some very difficult debates and dilemmas and with the division that has been long for 70 years to bury the victims of communist regime. That I think is remarkable crossroads in spiritual way for my country. And I came here to this beautiful city also to address different groups, those who has been, how to call it, those who has been, the matter of repression from fascist time and those from communist time, to work together on one country and one homeland. That is why I'm here. It's a precious moment for my country and my people. We cannot afford to have two homelands. And the future is so delicate that we have to work together. Nevertheless, what has been the history. We cannot change the history, but we can change the future. Number two. Middle East issue, Ukraine, and all that stuff. I've hosted President Putin at the end of July in my country. Not because that I would share his policy on those issues. Absolutely not. Absolutely. But I thought that at the 100th anniversary of small Russian church in our country that remind us about their victims during World War I would be a good occasion to come together and also to talk. Because I believe in dialogue, and I would strongly support the decision by Chancellor Merkel and President Hollande and President Poroshenko. President Poroshenko will be in a couple of weeks my guest in Liubliana, and Russian President to debate the Ukrainian future. I think the time has come for European Union to slowly also solve some conflicts, not just or produce them or being a part of them or being just a side of them. So Ukrainian one is, I think, such a problem that could be solved by a dialogue, because I do think that there is a way to go, but I have to be very cautious about it, because I think it's not possible to get there without European Union to have a common position on the future of Ukraine. Pay attention. Will Ukraine be a full member in the future? Will get a sui generis status, or what? Because I think it is our obligation to convey a strong message to Ukrainian people to believe us or not to believe us. And saying that, I would once again refer to my personal opinion that I think Ukraine, Turkey, and some other countries that now are applying for full membership, probably at the end of the day, they would not get there, but as a full member countries. But I think it would be very wrong to leave them out of the common or strong relations, and I think that involving the sui generis status or status of special relations would be maybe a way to think, to go and to then convey the message that at the end of the day, Ukraine, Turkey, and similar countries would not be a full member, but nevertheless would have a special status with you. Because, colleagues, excellencies, those of you who are from European Union, let us be frank with each other. Let us remind us the last decision of Dutch Parliament on Ukrainian agreement. They voted against it, not because the House would vote it against Ukrainian status, but once again voted against the government. So we are dealing with the same problem once again. So I think Ukraine is number one, and I think could be solved, and I do support the dialogue, and I think the meeting today maybe would bring us some fresh air. And I'm worried that, sorry, I don't want, especially in the capacity of the President, would like to criticize some high officials of the EU. It's not my job. But I think would be even better if, you know, if the High Representative for Foreign and Security Policy would have the meeting on this issue. If you try to understand my position. I mean, would be even better, because that would be a signal that we share the common position on the meeting with Russian Federation, and that would lead us to a common position on the sanctions. Okay, but nevertheless, let us be optimistic about the dialogue today. Number two, the same goes with Middle East. Once again, let us be frank. Where there is the European, politics at the moment. I mean, we are basically negotiating with Turkey on migration issue and not much more. I'm saying all the time that there is no good solution with Turkey without mentioning the issue, and this is Kurdish issue. We cannot debate, the whole agenda down there without mentioning the problem. As far as I can read the President Erdogan's concern, I've met him. We're very good friends. I established with him as a prime minister some sort of special relationship between Turkey and Slovenia. So we are often together and dealing with the problems. He's not very keen about my sui generis status philosophy, but on the other side, I try to understand his position, and I know that he's concerned about the Kurdish issue. And once again, I'm not sure that we have the common solution or the common statement on this third issue, but we have to dialogue. And this brings us to North Africa. I've been there as a member of European Council when we decided to invade, or not to invade, sorry, wrong word, to prevent humanitarian crisis at Benghazi. But I do remember the legitimate question by Mr. Berlusconi and myself, what then? And then at the time has been no answer to this very, obvious question. And that is why I think now we have this problem with Assad position in Syria. We have very good experience with Libya. I mean, not very good, bad experience with Libya. Putting away the dictator, but what then? So I think we have to find out the answer to this question as minor problem, and then to some bigger issues as more important. And number three, I think, and that has been always my position, I think the time has come to come together as an international community and address so-called war on terror, because I think it's a legitimate question how to deal with this issue. I think it is time for international community to come together as for climate change and other big issues, and to define the common strategy against this, because if not, I think we would fail, and that would not be good for security and peace all over the world. I think I'm using too much of your time.
Sorry, it's okay. Thank you. Una pregunta más. Embajador de Serbia, por favor.
Thank you very much for very open and very direct message you sent to us. I mean, brief us.
Louder.
Louder. Okay. So I'd like to welcome you here and thank you for your speech and your comments and reactions. But mentioning, or no, better say not mentioning Balkans, I feel like obliged simply asking your opinion about that. I mean, and remind you, President, of the decision taken 2003 in Thessalonica, so that we all should be members of EU. Is it so? Then second, is it Europe complete without Balkans? And third, is Slovenia going to be advocating our case as always until now? Thank you. I'm also sharing your view concerning the EU, let's say, as the only agenda which was to fight for.
Gracias, embajador. Terminamos.
One of rare success of my policy as Prime Minister has been a agreement on the border issue with Croatia. It has been a tough, agreement to reach, but at the end of the day, has been a matter of referendum in my country, and I inspired people to vote for it. That would mean that the blockade of our blockade of negotiations between Zagreb and Brussels has been, cancelled, and that Croatia could become a 28th member of European Union, with the promise of Zagreb that they will obey the decision of the court on the border. After this huge decision made by colleagues in Zagreb and our colleagues in Liubliana, we too, with the Prime Minister of Croatia, at that time, in 2010, have decided to call for so-called Borut Pahor initiative. The initiative is still going on, and it is extremely successful, I think. All countries of all former republics of former Yugoslavia plus Albania now are participating at least one a year, debating reconciliation, peaceful solution to problems, and the European perspective of the region. Let me be very, very clear. If I said before that I would advocate a sui generis status for Ukraine or for Turkey, because I tried to be realistic, I would absolutely claim for full membership of every country in Western Balkans. So I think in all aspects, those countries are belonging to European Union, knowing that that would be a very difficult process to go. But I'm trying to convince my colleagues that, debating the future of Bosnia or Kosovo or Macedonia, Serbia is much more easier task to do. It is not a technical problem, and it's not a technical process. It is a sensitive political issue and sensitive political process. I think that, the lack of inclination towards enlargement process would address those in those countries that would go back to old-fashioned politics, that would lead the whole region to the conflict. It is not true that only the European Union now is responsible for their reform process and all that stuff, but it is important. At the same time, I said at the last meeting in Sarajevo, I think all those countries could not, just give all the responsibility just to the Brussels institutions, but knowing that at the moment European Union is in the crisis, the slower process of integration shouldn't slower also the process of reforms there. if that would go on, then I think we can avoid certain problems. Listen, Bosnia is a very complicated issue. I think 20 years after Dayton treatment, Dayton agreement, probably the time has come to innovate the whole system to be much more efficient, but it's their problem and their responsibility. And we, friends of Bosnia, should be there to help them. So once again, it's their issue, but we should be there to help all three nations there to maintain one state as a modern European state. You know the problem with Kosovo, but I strongly support the dialogue between Pristina and Belgrade, and I think it's a good example of solving the problems. What I am very concerned of is Macedonia. Nobody's talking about this small country. It's there, but nobody's paying attention to it. But I said to my colleagues in Skopje, guys, I think the time has come for you to make some compromise solution to Greece and to other countries to get a compromise solution on name issue and other issues. Let us be practical because the time is running out and it's time to go further. So, not that this region is so complicated that couldn't be, optimistic about it, but some actions have to be done. And I think there are absolutely enough energy that the question is who will prevail, those who are trying to solve the problems or those who are creating them.
Gracias, señor Presidente. Yo quería agradecerle particularmente, antes que nada, el homenaje que le ha hecho a esta audiencia con su sinceridad, el análisis como un hombre de Estado que ha hecho de todos los temas que tocó, refugiados, crisis en Medio Oriente y particularmente en Siria, el tema de la Unión Europea con toda claridad y aún mismo los regionales que le acaban de preguntar. Yo me permitiría solamente resaltar un aspecto de su presencia aquí que tiene que ver más que nada para la audiencia nacional, que es que bueno que nos visite un jefe de Estado, un hombre de Estado, que ha encontrado un camino para solucionar esta discusión y, a mi entender, falso dilema entre ser una persona abierta al mundo, un país que acepta la globalización y al mismo tiempo un defensor de la identidad nacional. En el caso de Eslovenia vemos un país claramente con su identidad nacional que a lo largo de los siglos se sedimentó, que pasaron momentos dificilísimos y no hace mucho tiempo para consolidarla y que sin embargo hoy se abre al mundo, cree en el comercio internacional como un motor del desarrollo y cree que el bien común de sus conciudadanos se logra con más mundo y no menos mundo, con más participación y no menos participación, y con más diálogo y no menos diálogo. Quizá eso me permite suponer, sin querer avanzar sobre los criterios que tendrá la Cancillería Argentina sobre esto, que el encuentro con el Presidente de la República debe haber sido un total éxito, ya que coincide claramente con los lineamientos de la política nacional en este momento vigente. Por todo ello, señor Presidente, esta casa se honra con tenerlo como miembro correspondiente, agradecerle su augusta presencia aquí y al mismo tiempo a todos los que concurrieron, en particular al cuerpo diplomático, muchísimas gracias por su presencia. Muy amable.